Hello and welcome. I call the channel the Jungle Nook, and today we're going to be going out onto the porch and doing a little repotting. But first I just wanted to give you a quick look at the nook. That's what I refer to as this room here. It's my main growing room. So because I'm out here in the sun and my plants are usually in the house, I just got them down here. Table's casting a shadow, keeping them out of the sun. I don't want them to burn. For the potting mix, I'm using a potting mix that's mostly cocoa core. It's got some perlite and slow release fertilizer in it as well, but I'm using cocoa core, adding to that some perlite for drainage and some orchid potting mix just for some extra organics. I like the big chunky bark pieces that come out of there. You know it will be in the pot for a long time, take a long time to break down, providing the fresh organics, nutrients. And I'm using pots that have drainage. There's a drainage hole in there, little tray attached to the bottom. I'm going to make up a soil mixture that drains really well, but the pot has to be able to drain as well. It's very important. You're gonna come across so many different types of ratios and different types of potting mixes as you're looking stuff up. What I'm showing you is just what I do. Been doing it for years. It works really great for me. My plants seem nice and healthy. I use it for almost all the different types of tropical varieties. And what I normally do is I will first fill the pot up almost halfway with either cocoa core or peat moss. I never use topsoil. It compacts over time. It retains too much moisture. You can get root rot in it. Also, once it dries out, it's very hard to re-moisten it properly, and it can become real compacted. The roots can't really grow through it very well. But yeah, so I put a scoop in of the cocoa core or peat moss, and then I almost do an equal part of the perlite, and then I will mix that up real good. And this is what's at the bottom of the pot, and this is my drainage layer. I want a lot of extra perlite down there in the drainage layer. Peat moss and cocoa core, when it's really dry like it is right here, and this stuff's almost like dust right now, it takes a lot to hydrate it. So I'm going to put a little water in this right now. Really, these materials here, you could do equal parts in the whole pot, and the plant would really like that. I'm just showing you what I do. It works really well for me. And I only like to show you guys stuff that I actually do, products that I actually use. This here is a Monstera Peru. Now, the reason I'm up potting this pot has no drainage. This is what it was in when I bought it, maybe a year ago, 6 months to a year ago. And yeah, this pot does have holes in the bottom. It does have drainage. But when it drains out of here into this pot, there's no drainage. And when I buy a new plant, I do usually look to make sure it's not root rot or root bound from the start. And this was not. And I like to leave my plants in the original pot for a good 6 months to a year before I uppot it. And then the reason for that is, first, I will put it in its location within the plant room in there. I will put it in its location so that the plant can grow and get used to that spot that it's in. As far as the humidity that's in the room, the lighting that's available to that spot, it gets used to my watering regimen. I do that before I uppot it. Every time you uppot a plant, you do run the risk of stressing the plant. The reason that I only put the extra perlite at the bottom is because perlite floats, and I don't like that look. You could mix up equal parts of all three of these materials and you're just fine. After I get the plant in, what I then do is I'll get another scoop of the cocoa core or peat moss, whichever I'm using. Put 2 scoops in. And then I'll put in an equal part of this here, which is just orchid potting mix. And all orchid potting mix really is bark. It's just bark. But the bark takes a real long time to break down and decompose, and it's slowly releasing nutrients into the soil. So then I just fill in around the plant with this. And the reason that I didn't mix the bark all the way through is because I want this to break down, release the nutrients, and then as you water it, the nutrients is making its way all the way down to the bottom of the pot. So really in this pot, I probably got around 50% cocoa core, and then maybe about 25% perlite and 25% of the bark. Don't overthink the ratios. I know when you go online, you'll see. I've watched videos where they're potting up a couple different types of pothos, and each one's got a different blend and stuff. It really don't matter. Think about these guys out in the wild. Everywhere they're growing is not identical. You know, when you're looking up plant care, I've looked up plants, and I'll see a 10% difference in humidity. The watering schedule's a little different for each plant. The temperature's a little different for each plant. Yet all the plants they're showing are all cultivators from the same variety, or they're all plants that naturally grow right next to each other. They're, you know, don't really overthink it too much. That's all I did. Real simple. I'll give it some water, and then I'm going to get it out of the light. I'm going to have to water this several times because this cocoa core is so dry. It's going to take a lot to hydrate. That's all it was right there. Boom, done. Now I'm going to do a synapcus. I'm sure I pronounced it wrong. I believe it's a moonlight, silver moonlight. Not 100% sure. But I'm going to use the exact same potting mix for that as well. This plant actually did develop a little bit of root rot, so I stopped watering it so much. Ooh, looks nice, looks nice. Nice healthy roots. Smells good. Smells nice and earthy. It don't smell swampy or nothing. There's some darker roots right there. Root rot. That's root rot right there. See how it just falls apart and it's darker. Oh yeah, and I am getting a little bit of that swampy smell. Yeah, but it's bouncing back, and now that it has drainage, it will be fine. I do have a video on root rot if you're interested. And then I got an arrowhead here. Pink Illusion, I think it's called. Don't get hung up on plant names neither. You know, I mean, I don't. Yeah, when I first get a plant home, I look it up and see if there's anything really special I got to do about it. Usually it isn't. And I forget the name. Like, I know it's an arrowhead. I got a couple varieties of arrowhead. I got lots of different types of monstera, lots of pothos and philodendrons, and basically the care is the same for all of them. I don't do anything different for them. There are a few exceptions, I'm sure, but for the most part, all my plants are pretty much very common, inexpensive. A lot of them are fast growing, easy to care for. I don't chase trendy plants or spend a lot of money on something that's rare just because it's rare. When we go back in, I'm going to show you another type of arrow plant that I have. I'm not even sure how tall it is at the moment. I think it might be 4 feet tall. I'll show you guys that. Pretty cool. Now, every few months, you can put some earth castings, put a little thin layer of earth castings in here for fresh organics as well. And if you look in here, there's really not much room for me to do that. There's really not much room here for worm castings, but in a few months, because this stuff is breaking down, the pot will keep, the soil level in here will keep dropping, which is great because you have room to keep adding fresh organics over time for the plant. When I first up-pot a plant, though, I do not add any additional fertilizers, and I will not fertilize it for several months because I want the roots to be growing out and searching for that nutrients and filling that pot. But when I do start fertilizing, I will use a all-purpose fertilizer. So here they are, back in the nook, in the same spot that I took them from. And they should start growing, getting a nice growth spurt to them with those larger pots and the fresh organics, plus the time of the year. It's late spring here. So I'm expecting a nice growth spurt out of these guys. The moonlight, silver moonlight down here, this guy might take a little bit longer to actually get a growth spurt because of the root rot. Although the roots it was already growing new roots and they looked healthy. Yep, here they are back in the house. And then over here, this is that arrowhead I was talking about. Not sure what variety it is, but when I bought it, it was in a hanging basket. It was only about maybe 9-12 inches tall. And I had left it in there for well over a year, and it started growing and wrapping around the hanger. And that's what gave me the idea to up-pot it into a larger pot and put stakes in the pot and let it continue to grow up. And I use little pieces of Velcro and you know, whatever I got laying around. I tie it to the stakes. That's what I'm trying to say. I just keep tying it to the stakes. It keeps growing up. I really like that. Wasn't intentional. You know, I got the idea from seeing it wrap around the hanger on the hanging basket. But isn't this a really big arrowhead? And it's nice and healthy too. So thanks for watching, and please hit that like button.